Ferguson here, co-founder and president of Immutable X, with us today. Robbie, how are you doing?
Awesome. It's great to be here, guys. Excited.
Awesome. So I kind of wanted to just jump right into it because I know you're limited on time. Let's see, what is a day in the life at Immutable look like for Robbie?
Yeah, great question. I don't do anything crazy. I wake up, I start out the day very recently with a cold plunge, which is very, tech/human to me, but I actually find that exceptional. Then I work out with my two co-founders 5 days a week. Typically, we'll kind of do high level but not urgent business work or sort of more creative business work while we work out, which is just the best way to start a day, I think. And then jump into the day, and it could be anything from executive level strategy to working on investor relations or fundraising or management, product, go to market. There's different things we focus on. The team's now 280, so it's about constantly, I think, redefining your role to work with maximum leverage at each stage of the company cycle, and you have to be quite explicit around defining, this is the responsibilities and this is how I should spend my time. But yeah, nothing that fancy. Yeah.
We know your background as a RuneScape player, so wearing hats is right down your alley, and wearing many of them.
Yep.
It sounds like you're pretty good at. So that's pretty good.
When was the we've heard you tell the story of how you started to see that there's a problem with digital ownership in gaming. When was the actual D-Day when you started working, and the actual day you got together and went, let's do this, and started to work? Is there a story behind that as well?
Yeah, it would have been late 2017. So we had been building in crypto since 2015, mainly trading bots. So we built stuff initially on centralized exchanges like Poloniex, and then we started to expand to DEXs and to some derivatives. But we always wanted to build an actual product and a company. That's what we had done multiple times before, but we just didn't know what would be the killer application on blockchain. Actually, at the start of that year, we had started working on the white paper for the Distributed Autonomous Bank, or DAB. Effectively, think a compound style application or a lending protocol. And we hadn't quite solved the over-collateralization problem. I don't think it's solved even today, but I think we'd made some good progress. And we were about to launch this when, the 5 ICOs went to 20, went to 50, went to 200. And we just got very cold feet in terms of compliance and in terms of, a lot of these were scams. And nothing we wanted to do. We wanted to be this short-term or speculative thing. We wanted to build a long-term usable infrastructure that people actually wanted to use with blockchain, because we're big believers in the technology. And at the same time, CryptoPunks came out. This is at the time we decided to scrap our Distributed Autonomous Bank project. And I remember seeing Punks, which was effectively the first ever NFT. And I said to James, or James said to me, this will be how players own items in video games. And it was only a few months after that we started working on Etherbots, which was our first ever multiplayer blockchain game released on the blockchain. That basically had everything on chain in terms of logic. It was effectively a glorified rock paper scissors, but we also did things like an embedded on-chain perk tree. We had to do verified randomness. It was insane the amount of difficulty going into just like building a very, very basic game in terms of what you would consider from traditional Web 2 perspectives. But I'm still very proud of the work we did there. I think we learned a ton about where the industry would go. That process of building games and then trying to figure out how to platform and make it very easy for anyone else to recreate it, I think has been key to us building a successful product today.
Yeah,
absolutely. And with, I think that streamlining of kind of like the playbook, if you will, has gotten better and better with time. Like I've noticed as each of these games have started to release, it's far different from the first game that I experienced when, say, Play Vi Worlds was released, and that was very boom in your face. And then now it like the timed calculated release of these projects as they're ready, rather than maybe like kind of hodgepodge together. And I've noticed an exponential increase in the quality. And there goes my son. He just got a victory right out in the background. So you have these complexities getting bigger and bigger, specifically with ZK EVM release. How do you feel about Immutable's general positioning as a gaming leader with and without that technology?
I just lost the last few words there. With and without.
With and without that tech, like how, because now that you are just starting to roll out the tech, but certain games will not even use it, right? So.
Yeah, look, I think we're in a great position where the majority of games onboarding to the platform today are, they're obviously going to be using the majority of our stack. So we have nearly 100% of games building on Immutable today signed up to use Passport. And I think that's brilliant because this is a solution we are designing that they spend fractions of what they're currently spending on user acquisition by vastly improving the conversion for Web 2 developers or gamers to be able to onboard customers onto these games. And we're already seeing Passport convert basically 250% better than, say, a MetaMask or an ordinary wallet in terms of onboarding, which means you're literally spending less than a third if you're acquiring a customer. But I'm really proud of the product engineering and design team. We call it PED internally. I think they've come huge strides over the last year. We have people like Kev McHugh, Steen, who was formerly the VP of product management over at Atlassian. Obviously, Alex, my co-founder and CTO, driving an enormous amount of the velocity here. And Immutable zkVM testnet has come out on time. We've been able to squash an enormous amount of bugs. We are on track for Q4 mainnet. At the same time, we're taking all of the other surface area of Immutable products, checkout, Passport, the global order book, and building all of this to be ready with testnet as well. So I'm actually extremely excited about the quality and velocity of the product team now. I think it's about, now that we have this live data from games actually integrating with these products, starting to obsessively iterate, how can we make Passport convert even better and make it even cheaper to acquire customers? How can we improve the funnel metrics of checkout even better to improve sales volume and the experience for customers trading on Immutable zkVM? How can we improve the SDK funnel data, which we have obsessively? And in fact, the last 4 months have been not only the biggest months of onboarding games ever in Immutable's lifetime, but the most signups we've seen on the website from a self-serve or self-directed games applying to Immutable.
Yeah,
I think everything's on all cylinders. Yeah,
I saw that today. After releasing the testnet, you guys 10x'd the number of developers actually starting to like, hey, this is something we want to do. So that's incredible.
Precisely, which is exciting because, in 2 years, we don't want to have to talk to every single gamer who wants to build a Web3 game. The vision should just be, here's the platform, much like Stripe, you can come and build on it successfully. And in fact, some of our biggest games today, like Aglet, actually built on us initially as completely self-serve customers. We didn't even realize they were building until we got the telemetry from their test.
One of my favorite actually sleepers, like I love walking around with, my phone in my pocket, and I get to, every once in a while you get that notification, hey, you have a sneaker box to open, and literally there's a check-in right behind my house. And I'll go out walking just to get the check-in because the Kobe's just came out. I tried to get them yesterday, but I didn't get them.
Yeah, going back to the engineering practices, we actually interviewed Inga, the engineering manager, episode 9, and that's something I asked because someone that's followed Immutable for about 2 years pretty closely, being a dev, there's little hints that the engineering practices weren't kind of like as efficient as they are now. And she actually touched on that the chalk and cheese about the engineering practices and how much better they are now. So, and testnet coming out on time. In terms of non-technical now, since testnet's released, what have you seen change, or what impact has that had on other aspects of the business, like sales, things like that? Have you seen anything change now that testnet's out?
Well, the biggest difference is when we are pitching games on Immutable zkVM, and we've had a huge increase in the win rate, by the way, since the Polygon partnership, about a 50% relative increase.
Wow.
We basically could just get them to start building, which is the most important thing for the vast majority of games. They want to be able to say, fantastic, We love the product in general, but how can we start building? And the key difference between zkVM and Immutable X is the ability to just basically copy paste code from Ether 1 because it's directly EVM compatible.
Yeah, that's a big. You can see that would be a big, especially when they've already got contracts. A lot of these games on L1, and they're still deciding the L2, and you come in and say, "Hey, just copy paste your code, and it'll work on that as is." And other ones, you need to go learn a new language, or you got to, So yeah, it makes sense that would be big wins there.
Yeah, definitely one of the pluses of being a Type 1. So if you could look back to the start of Immutable, what would you do differently? Kind of what were some of the hardest lessons to have to learn in the journey?
It's a great question. First, maybe I'll touch on the things that I think we got right that were not easy to get right, or that I'm very grateful that we got right through a lot of thought. And I think that was probably the technical choices that we made. We were discussing this with Al, my co-founder, but even the choice to not go with Viper, but to go with Solidity was a choice we thought about. And these are really important decisions. And, our philosophy there was use the thing that is most battle tested, because why take risks when there's even very limited upside. I think the choices around ZK powered scale have been really significant, because back when we started, the most popular thing to do and the easiest way to raise a bucket of cash was to just create an ETH competitor. And that was basically building either a side chain or, another POS chain with massively reduced decentralization in order to achieve the TPS that made it marketable, like a Solana. And that was never interesting to us because of two reasons. One was we wanted to use the thing everyone wanted to use. We had big conviction that Ethereum had built significant network effects and they weren't going to go away. But second was that, you didn't need to compete with Ethereum. You could just scale it using secure technology. And we looked at everything. We looked at Plasma, we looked at optimistic rollups. Initially, we looked at sidechains, and nothing really worked for us. The problem with optimistic rollups is the withdrawal times and also the cost times for something like gaming. And you can kind of get around those with, DeFi or fundable currencies, because you can market make liquidity on the bridging side for withdrawals, but it's very, very difficult when I can't market make your one of a kind God's Unchained card.
Exactly. Yep.
Precisely. And the cost structure is also much more favorable on a Validium ZK rollup implementation. So I think that was a really key choice that we made. I think second key choice is probably focusing on gaming since day one. Pretty much every blockchain in the world now cares about gaming the most in terms of the category that they want to win. These are large companies and competitors, and previously we had a lot less cash than them. The only reason we've been able to build the market share we have today is by ruthlessly focusing only on building games and leveraging our internal IP. If we had tried to win DeFi, if we had tried to win PF and collectibles and everything, we would not have been able to be successful. So I think that's actually a really important choice. Things I would have improved, I think you can always improve the velocity of company progress by, ideally you can take what you'll know in a year and revert it. I think a lot of early lessons around hiring were really valuable. And now I think we have one of the highest hiring standards in the country. We just had our employee engagement survey, actually, where we got an eNPS of 81, which is exceptional. But more importantly, 80% of what was most important to people were the people they worked with at Immutable. Exceptionally smart, working on hard problems, great to work with, low ego. I think that takes a lot of trial and error to figure out what that kind of ideal person to work at the company is. And it's going to be different for every company. But I'm really, really proud of where we've got that today. But that's certainly some of the hardest lessons you learn when you make mistakes in hiring, and where we would have made the best progress if we had known that from the start.
Yeah. Am I still working? My computer just has a little bit of a chunk out every now and again.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. We interview people often and ask one of the questions. We like to try and give them a chance to say what Immutable could do better. There's only been one person has had the gut to say anything negative at all, and that's another Aussie, actually. But it was done in a very nice way. He mentioned that, what would you think Immutable could do better? And he mentioned the marketplace. Now, it's obviously that the cross liquidity thing, the unique aspect of that, and that's an absolute massive win. Like his critique was more around how fragmented the functionality is of marketplaces. Like the native marketplace doesn't do things like transfer. Troke and Trove does do transfer, but they only have a selected amount of assets that you can do that on. So what would you about marketplaces? Would you agree with that? What would you say? What do you say about the marketplace and for the future?
I would totally agree. So first off, I think that's so funny because internally we are so hard on ourselves. We have a very candid culture of feedback. I think we have to be ruthless with feedback, especially around products. You obviously have to be more constructive and more careful around feedback to individuals. But that if you know me, you know
how much of that do you want to? How much of that do you really want to air on a podcast, though? So I think.
Well, look, we're always pretty open about this. We take a lot of feedback from the community. I think it's a really important part of just getting better faster, right? And it builds a lot of confidence and conviction.
With so many trolls, though, I think too, it's kind of hard to not focus on some of the glaring issues, right? So
precisely. So it's more productive as an internal discourse and dialogue, but definitely there's a lot of signal still in customer feedback, and we talk to customers very regularly. But to us, the most important feedback is from players using our products or from businesses and games building on our infrastructure. And the marketplace, I totally agree with. So maybe some good context is we actually aren't actively developing this marketplace, and the goal of this marketplace is really to be a framework or an example for other people to build successful marketplaces. We actually don't want this to have meaningful market share. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, we just don't want to compete with marketplaces. We think there's exceptional builders, and we would rather build the infrastructure that makes them as successful as possible. Things like Token Trove, Rarible, GUDEX, GameStop Marketplace. And that's because of our global order book, which means they can access every single trade and make far more value off those trades than they could on any other infrastructure. And also not have to have this race to the bottom on royalties because we can guarantee that enforceable protocol-wide. So I agree there's missing pieces in the marketplace. I think the ideal is we release what we call trade primitives. We have a trade primitives team, which is releasing things like, checkout or different ways of bid functionality. Actually, those are two different teams, but all of those products, we would just service to everyone building a marketplace and would say, hey, this is what we think you should build. Go nuts, and they'll build more interesting things than us. Like when I trade Gods Unchained cards, I'm personally using GUDEX the most of the time because I want to find the deck that I want to buy and then just instantly purchase
it's right there. And I think you actually nailed it on the head right there. Some of the communities themselves are making the best tools purpose built. Just like Immutable is a purpose built layer 2 solution, these communities are making these things. Like Illuvium, their community is incredible. The amount of tools that these people have made to be able to search by which wave they're in, their total power, if they're winking or not, it's incredible,
Hub.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I really like that point because all of the tools are there. It's kind of like, which ones do you really want to use, right? So, we'll see that kind of flourish.
Has ZK EVM, now that it's out, is there a bit more focus on the marketplace and getting these better tools out for the marketplaces to be able to utilize?
100%. This is always a major focus to us, is improving the trading experience. So, immutable checkout, which is our strategy, so that you can on-ramp with fiat, you can off-ramp with fiat, you can purchase assets incredibly easily, is one of our main priorities. Improving trade primitives. So obviously you now have bids on Immutable X, rolling that out to Immutable ZKVM. Long-term vision. The long-term vision we have is you should be able to trade any asset on any marketplace using the Immutable Passport on any game, on any Immutable supported rollup, and all of that liquidity and listings should be instantly and atomically matchable. And I think that solves one of the biggest problems in the blockchain today, which is liquidity fragmentation.
Yeah, and you need to be able to get that atomicity to be able to get that, or to relieve that fragmentation, right? So that is absolutely huge. What, in your own words, standards, would you consider a successful game in Web3?
So I think a hit you could probably define as, I think anything north of like a million monthly actives is going to be a massive success right now. And how that correlates into volume, we'd probably think about $1 billion of volume per year is you're getting to that significant hit stage. So, you go, please.
I was just going to say, and so how many percentage of games in Web3 will make that, you think? Is it 1 in 10, 1 in 20? Are you able to make a prediction, you think, on that?
Yeah, I think it's probably 1 in 10 to 1 in 20, actually. I think it's probably around 5 to 10%. I think it could be a little smaller right now, and then it could ramp up as these playbooks get developed. So social gaming is a great example of this. If you're building a social game leveraging the Facebook graph, you really didn't know what you were doing back in the day. But as soon as Farmville came out, it became very easy to build them. Or Mafia Wars, you copied this infrastructure or playbook. Same thing as gacha games. Genshin Impact is one of the most successful games of all time. It is copying much of the game design of this genre that was previously developed. So I think it's partially about having these successful examples. If Axie Infinity had been a sustainable economy, we'd have hundreds of successful copycats today. So I think it's about having that breakout success that then defines, hey, this is how you do the quite hard and unique proprietary stuff for Web3 economy design and gaming in your game really easily. And that's why we do Immutable Studios, right? We want to be able to be at the vanguard of what's it like working on economies? What's it like building a game design that is sustainable at any player base number? How do you prevent, the economy from having this massive ride up and down and from having that have a reflexive exit event where people lose confidence? I think all of these are key problems endemic to building a Web3 game that we want to make sure we have really strong opinions on. The hit-driven thesis is really interesting, right? Because one game is going to do more volume than every other game combined. And then the second most successful game will do more volume than the third to nth game combined. And the third game will do, and that's the power law. And we see this already in Web 2. Counter-Strike Go has done $30 billion in volume in the last 3 years. And that's on a database where they regularly rug players with impunity by changing the trading rules. So we think there's enormous opportunity to build that level of success. But it requires a platform business. It requires having 200-300 games building on the platform and helping them all and then seeing which ones are starting to become really successful.
I need to have a guess on who will be the first hit on Immutable.
Look, I think there's a ton of bets, so I think I could tell you the bets. But again, it's so hard to predict the speed. Across the Ages is actually doing really well in growth at the moment. The progress of Illuvium's game has been really strong. I'm most impressed by the Auto Battler.
We're going to have PvP like right around the corner. I saw the leaks recently, and
there may or may not be a 1v1 between me and a certain Illuvium.
Do it. I will be there for that. That's going to be awesome.
Remember they did it he did it with his brother for $1 million, like crazy. Kieran we're talking about here. Yeah.
There's a lot to be excited about for a lot of games.
Guild of Guardians, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but that's obviously one of our internally published games. We had retention goals for the end of this quarter, as in 3 months from now, which we've already hit in the first month. So we're extremely excited by how on track this game is. I think there's a really strong chance of being hit as well. That will be coming out at the end of this year.
Yeah, we both played it. So yeah, like right now, your 5 games that you're publishing, and so taking a higher step on it, all coming to that close to release, and even Gods Unchained is close to mobile, close to 9 other games. It's like at the end of this year, it's going to be like Immutable Christmas for everyone that liked Immutable games. Yeah. Well, yes. I think all of them have a chance of becoming a hit, a big hit.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that everything we're building for that, we're sharing. Every single bit of IP that goes into Guild of Guardians economy, or what we're working on, which I'm really excited to share soon on the user acquisition driven by token side. All of this we just give to every single person building on the platform. And you see this. Sometimes you have trading cards like across the ages. It was like, how will you you determine the priorities and what you share with Gods Unchained versus us. And I'm like, anything Gods Unchained gets right, we'll share with you, because our goal is just having this industry be as successful as possible. And of course, we want these games to be successful that we're building, but it's not zero sum. Everyone is lifting each other up in the industry right now, given there's so much difficult 0-1 work to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So now that you and Polygon have joined forces and basically created this powerhouse, who do you see as kind of biggest competition in the space right now?
Look, ultimately, it's the Web2 broken ecosystem that we're trying to improve, right? I think that's the real competition for everyone in the space, is how do we redefine player ownership inside of gaming.
I agree.
Yep.
And I mean, even I see you interact with a lot of the Yuga, team and projects and things like that. And I really don't see it as a us versus them type thing. Although a lot of people force themselves to see it that way.
So, stay on the theme of games. I create the ecosystem map. I've been doing it for a couple of months now, and I've only been able to discover 100 games, including games that you haven't announced on that list, like the permissionless ones. You're stating 200 now. So is that like we're 100 games that we don't know about? And if that's right, well, when do we find out about them?
It pretty much is. And remember, we have way more than 200 games. These are 200 well-funded games. So ones that we feel confident will be a hit, ones that we appraise and put in the go-to-market system. Yeah, I mean, you have like way more building on testnet, basically just through self-serve development. But we don't really, that long tail will either build or not and be successful or not. What we focus on is games with sufficient funding that we think they can actually have a chance of being a hit. And that's when we spend, business development effort and we'll actually personally build a relationship with these games. And that's what we say when we say 200 games. In terms of timing, it just changes because a lot of these are Web2 developers now who aren't doing this mission of building in public. They just want to build an exceptional game, release it in the year, and have Web3 embedded in the designs. So we have been announcing a bunch. We will continue to do so. But honestly, the variance can be anything between 1 month from signing these games to a year if they want to remain pretty private.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I guess let's move on to some of the future of Immutable. What are some of the plans for different or better on ramps and off ramps for IMX? Anything you can share there?
We have a ton. So obviously we already have some on-ramps available today, but our vision is, and what we'll be launching for Immutable ZKVM, you should be able to purchase, any asset with a credit card. You should be able to withdraw via credit card. We're working with a few partners here, and that's part of the product that we're building known as Immutable Checkout. I actually think we'll have some demos to share here from the product side, which we'll be tweeting out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I actually participated in a UX design thing for the checkout, and I got to see a little early glimpse of that, and it actually looks really nice. And knowing the tech that goes into actually doing a lot of the translation and relayer and things like that makes it all the more amazing, because the end user really doesn't have to worry about it at all. So
I can give you feedback from like regular Immutable players of games when I explain to them what checkout is, because I actually saw it as well, and what it's capable of. You can just see the finally kind of look on their face, even though you're not looking at their face, that come from their reactions, because I think that's probably been another weakness of Immutable, is the ability to move tokens around in and out and all that kind of stuff. It hasn't been very thoroughly built out yet, but now we can see it coming. Obviously, it's been being built. So
yeah,
kind of on the same topic of on ramps and token interactions are we going to see a return of something like ImmutoSwap, or are we going to have the ability to swap natively?
Well, look, it's an open blockchain. There will be many third-party applications built. DEXs essentially emerge on the vast majority of blockchain. So look, yeah. I'm almost certain we'll see people building things. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know that you were actually pretty pivotal in the whole ApeCoin DAO, even like the creation of it. Is it true that you? So I had some rumor.
I wouldn't say
that you helped create the ApeCoin DAO. You and like 10 other people worked on something as a proposal to ApeCoin DAO early on.
We did work on a proposal for the marketplace, but no, I didn't have any direct involvement in the creation of the DAO. I think it was more
because
lads and Animoca, yeah.
Okay, because I know early on there were a lot of spaces and things about ApeCoin DAO, and basically hoping that that Yuga wouldn't take a big turd bomb on the rest of everyone and make their own sidechain like they were gonna do.
So we were involved in part of that pitch, and trying to keep them on an Ethereum scaling solution, and that was I think
all right. So that's accurate enough.
Governance process.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on ApeCoin DAO and the route that Yuga's been taking since its creation? Then.
Yeah, look, I actually think they've done some interesting strategies. Obviously, the game strategy they've had is like this whitelist experience. I actually think it's a really interesting model. I mean, it's not the model we're going down necessarily with the majority of games building on us, which is like mainstream first. But it is a model that is, how do you have a highly loyal, highly average spend user base, and with 10,000 true fans have a really productive sort of game and ecosystem and ongoing economy. So, I think every bit of experimentation in the industry is generally quite useful as long as it's not exploitative, and I don't think it's exploitative. So I'm supportive of it, and I think obviously you have some new big leadership coming into Yuga Labs now, and it's going to be really interesting to see where they take that company over the next few years.
Interesting. So one of the last questions we'll get to around blockchain and the overall kind of ecosystem. Where do you like Web 2, we see monopolies or duopolies or triopolies, whatever, that's probably not the right word, but form after time. Do you see blockchain gaming, and specifically the gaming aspect of it, forming in that way as well? And what does that look like over the next 10 years? How does that play out over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think we don't see it in the same way. So in the same way that you wouldn't call Ethereum a monopoly, I don't think that the dominant platforms are going to do things that like ramp up pricing on people or turn things into a very insular ecosystem. So I think the really important philosophical approach is what we are building towards is an open ecosystem with open economic property rights, when anyone could fork an ecosystem ultimately if they didn't like it, or fork a blockchain, or they could take these asset standards and change them in any way they see fit. So I think that's kind of the most important point, which is even if you have massively successful platforms, obviously that's our goal. We want to completely change the face of gaming. We want to take the $150 billion spent on in-game items and make them truly tradeable, ownable by players, and then build an entire ecosystem of secondary market finance and DeFi around it that's worth $1 trillion, because that's typically what you see in the financial industry is the financial infrastructure being worth an order of magnitude more than the underlying secondary volume of just the assets. That being said, we would never do that in a way that compromises our values and our goals, which true decentralization, true empowerment of players. Literally our vision, mission, and strategy of the company is to make the largest ecosystem in the world for NFTs that empowers players and gamers. And that last part of it is key. We haven't won if we have the number one ecosystem, but we're not actually empowering economic property rights. So that would be my main suggestion. And I think we've seen this, right? Like partially this is the invention of a new expectation and a new genre design. In the same way that free-to-play has taken over, in the same way that mobile and social as phenomenons have taken over, I think that Web3 gaming has just become this horizontal rather than a vertical, where you have it, ever present in any game with a multiplayer economy.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
So, did you have any other questions before we do our 10 little, funny roundup? This is.
I think we're ready for a little lightning round of questions.
Awesome.
So just going to ask you 10 questions. You've got 60 seconds to answer. Max one-word answers, ideally. City or country? Sorry, city or country?
City.
League or union?
What were the two words there?
Rugby league or rugby union? You say
Clueless.
neither. Neither? Okay. What's your favourite movie?
Interstellar.
Favourite game?
League of Legends.
Loser. Favourite colour?
Favorite color?
Yeah.
Blue. Middle
Blue.
blue.
Ferrari or Lamborghini?
Neither.
One word to describe Elon Musk.
Polarizing.
That's a good one. Xbox or PlayStation?
Xbox.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Salted caramel.
Ooh, good pick.
Between two layers or GamersGalaxie?
I've got to back our own between two layers here, guys.
Damn it, we're so close.
So, wrong answer. You only actually have two wrong answers. Favorite game?
Yeah.
Legal. I'll make a joke. I laughed at that and said loser because I'm a Dota player. There's a massive rivalry between League of Legends and Dota.
No, I know. Don't worry.
Just make sure the audience knows that as well. That's just a joke. So yeah. But Robbie, thank you so much for your time. If there's anything we didn't ask, you want to leave us with?
No, it was a pleasure, guys. I just want to leave you with we're really grateful and Immutable for your contribution to the community. So a big shout out and thank you from us. It's awesome. We're always following the threads. It adds a ton of value, and a lot of our investors mention it too.
Awesome. Well, we gotta try to make this a little bit more frequent. When we get some of the exciting stuff coming around Christmas time at New Year, maybe we'll have you on in the start of the new year and get a little update.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Pleasure, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. All right. That was really awesome having Robbie on. Thanks again for his time and everything. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was a privilege, and thank you very much for taking your time on a Saturday morning to, every day to spend it with us and really go into some answers that were just not heard before on, from Robbie. Like a lot of the time you hear on interviews and I'm hearing him answer questions I've heard before. So it was really exciting, to hear him go into depth on things. Some were what we've heard before, but a lot was new content in there, just about, the increase of sales that they've made have been 50% better close rate on percentage, which is huge. But since the Polygon,
yeah, absolutely,
announcement.
And honestly, considering that we just started the podcast up and really we're in our infancy, and he's taking the time to come on and talk with us really shows that we've kind of done a good job in focusing our content and building up really what Immutable is about, and then also that he sees the need to focus and really bring the information out there to where it's being consumed, right? So meeting the consumer basically where they're at right now and leading them towards the bridge to being able to participate in the ecosystem and basically tell us about how, from inception to now and into the future, how we're going to be basically interfacing with Immutable and being able to see its growth, exponential growth over this last, I'd say even 6 months has been incredible. Yeah. And then just being able to kind of actualize, some of the accomplishments from when it was just first a thought and now coming to fruition. It's awesome to see.
Yeah. Having Robbie on the pod, to me, I know a lot of our listeners like analogies. It's like, for our gamer gamers out there that listen to this to see what's going on, rather than the token people. It's like having XQC or Dr. Disrespect, respond to us and say, yeah, you can come and game with me and go on stream. This is pretty much like, so we want to thank Robbie for giving us those insights, coming on our little show that's only just growing now, just starting out, and telling us things like 200 well-funded games, and confirming that over the next 12 months, that's an average of at least 2 games a week that they're going to announce, or if they make no more deals going forward. So it's a lot of games coming to Immutable, and the flywheel, once they start coming out, that's just going to increase more and more. It's exciting times for Immutable. And,
absolutely. I'm just picturing now your flywheel Who I Am X graphic is pretty soon. It's not going to fit on the page. So
yeah, I'm going to have to rethink that, and I'm also going to get better at it. Bang Bang does a way better job of presenting my work, so I need to get better so people watch my one. And if I'm going to spend the hours researching, that actual people want to see my ecosystem graph.
We got to turn it into like a video somehow or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also looking forward to seeing Robbie versus Kieran in the this one.
It's going to be epic. I will not be missing that, and that's definitely going to be one that's going to be probably highly contested, because they're both very competitive. So it'll be pretty funny.
Oh, and the other point that's unbelievable, which makes sense, but the fact that 100% of games that they're working with have signed up to use Passport.
Yeah,
you think it, but that tells you how important that product is.
Not only that, but how well they've engineered it and made it to where it solves a lot of problems for the developers in what they're doing, and it shows very drastically in the numbers that he was talking about. So,
yeah. Anyway, well, we also wanted to touch on thanking Steve Green and Lachlan for last episode 10. We had, because we had Robbie coming on, we had a lot going on. There was also some kind of wind and tornado and all this stuff going on over in your area. So we just decided not to record out of, so you could be ready for that. Yeah, those chats were great. Thanks, guys, for coming on. And Chrono Forge is going to go into a holders beta this week or next. So keep, it's very cheap to buy one. Did you end up buying one?
I honestly, I didn't yet, but it was funny. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he purchased one. I'm like, dang it, now I have to. So honestly, you just reminded me. I might have to go grab one after this recording.
Yeah, just send me the link to the
absolutely
collection. I just don't have much on F layer 1, which is a pain. So I think they're on layer 1. Is that right, or is it some on Immutable still?
It is. It is on layer 1. They have a few items on Immutable. I think that's just like the pets.
Yeah, you need to have an avatar. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that game is one of my most anticipated ARPG. The art looks fantastic. The movement looks fantastic. The variety, 12 different heroes, 12 different classes, and 12 different races.
Yeah.
So you can mix. So it's got a lot of variety for players off the bat out of the game. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to playing that one when it comes out around about the end of the year.
Yeah, it was awesome having him on, and really do look forward to that.
What about the MAU? He was very
timid about it, right?
Conservative. Yeah, it's like the asking the question.
Yeah,
like how great are you? Australians are very, like let's just say we're different to Americans. We're not. That's one of our biggest differences. Americans are taught to be very confident and taught to over promise and under deliver, where we're taught to be very under promise, over deliver. So it's definitely a cultural difference from America, and that's what I picked up from it. For our American listeners, it's not that he doesn't believe in his project. It's just that he'd rather say I got 50,000 users and then go, hey, look, I got 1 million. In later on when he does, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and we're American.
Also, when you're starting out and kind of building kind of grassroots, if you will, it's it's hard sometimes to kind of fathom those larger numbers, but once you get some momentum, it's very easily achievable.
Yeah. And I want to clarify my point I just made. I'm not criticizing it. It's just different ways of doing things. Like a lot of times saying you're going to have look at WAGMI, the way they're doing it. They're American builders and they're like, we're going to be 80 million users and we're going to be the best. And that creates hype and helps it become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Where I think that's a weakness of an Australian, where he should have said, I reckon our game's amazing. We're going to get to 1 million users. But it's just our culture that stopped that. And so my prediction, I reckon it'll get to over 2 million monthly active users. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that's easily achievable with the style. I know that people see the actual picture and they think it's going to be pixel, but then they see the actual stuff and it's full 3D and everything like that. It looks amazing. And when people see the actual gameplay, that's going to be the key thing there. And once you have a good game like that, easily over 1 million active users, monthly active users.
Over 1 million?
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're in the same category then of one below legendary of 1 to 9 million. I think I made that category too wide.
Yeah. Cool. Once we get too many lumped in there, then we can talk about changing some of the dynamics of it. So
yeah, okay. And next to Steve Green, who we interviewed as well, what my takeaway from that was, after meeting Inga, Steve, and now Robbie, there's a common theme. There's very, very intelligent, thoughtful people. They articulate very well. They are confident in what they do. They are very intelligent. Their answers come from real deep thought. I think that's one of the why I'm a big believer in Immutable. Like you could sense that, but now we know it. We can see that the people that are employed are quite intelligent people. In the higher end of the intelligence bell curve.
Well, yeah, and you could tell that from purpose-driven responses and, like you said, thought-out responses, and actually being able to answer the questions, and roll with the punches, right? And that's one of the things that you can't fake the funk on that. And it's clear when you talk to the team and they're so well versed between the different functions, even though they may not work on everything that another, some of the other groups are working on, whatnot, right? So it shows with the quality, like I said, and I honestly don't think there's many other companies in the Web3 space that can say that. If you join some of the spaces from some of the other chains and things like that, you get like I get that real CD degen vibe, and it really turns me off. So being able to have a conversation without even when Robbie was talking about, hey, when in the quick answers, you said Ferrari or Lambo, he says neither, right? So I don't know, it shows.
Yeah. And I wonder what people think about those 10 quick questions. I thought try something different this week and get to know our guests a bit more. Let us know if you want us to do that with every guest. The 10 quick fire questions to get to know the builders a bit more. Just sort of like in-depth knowledge about them, but it's just something fun. I don't know. Let us know if you think it's fun. Did you think it was fun?
Yeah, I loved it. I actually liked it a lot. So I think we should keep doing it.
Well, the boss has spoken. It looks like it's going to happen no matter what the audience wants.
Yeah, screw that. We're not taking any. We don't take no sneaking feedback.
We're not a DAO.
We're not a DAO. Okay, this is a GamersGalaxie DAO. GG DAO.
Maybe we should launch a token. I don't know. DJ Eyes opening up.
We could rug it like Pepe Devs did today. That would be awesome.
Awesome.
So
what is that? I didn't know that. Did you want to?
Yeah, Pepe coin. Pepe, the meme coin. One of the developers recently just completely rugged it, sold everything, and now Pauly is trying to turn him into the SEC. So it's so funny.
Wow. I can't believe that happened.
Right? It's shocking.
Wow. Shocking. Oh, mate, we need this to stop. I like bring in legislation to make it harder to make crypto just so this can stop, so we can actually get real use cases coming forward. And speaking of real use cases, we're a bit late, but ZK EVM testnet is out. It's live. It was a couple of weeks now. We haven't recorded, but it's still. We definitely need to talk about it. How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's what we've been waiting for, and the numbers don't lie. IMEX tweeted out today that the number of developer wallets were 10x in the week that it's been released. So that's incredible. They had like 11,000 new wallets, and that's just incredible, right? Like I said, the numbers do not lie. So
they're up to 100,000 wallets, or because they had 10,000 wallets not long ago, didn't they? So they had 10,000 builders on Immutable for 10x. They've got 100,000 builders now. Is that right? That can't be right. Over a certain period of time, probably. I don't know.
No, I said. Well, let's see. I'm gonna have to pull it up, but we'll find exactly what it said. It said 10x something. So,
well, we had a Twitter Spaces to talk about the ZKVM. So if you want a deeper dive into what it means, we'll put a link in I guess my link tree. It's not there yet. We'll be by the time you hear this. You can go and listen to the Spaces, Twitter Spaces we both did on that, and it got hijacked a bit about token price, but the first 45 minutes of it was mostly about the product that's come out. The ability, I think the biggest takeaway is that the relayer is going to be built so that games developers can still foot the bill for gas tokens. Steve also last week talked about how that might not be ready straight away, based on the bot problem, and stopping DDoS attacks and things like that. So that needs to be ironed out. But the long term is that they are going to try and maintain a gas-free option for developers. And I'm sure there'll be solutions around that. It's pretty important, that one. That was my biggest concern, that it was going to be just gas now and just be like any other chain. But obviously the whole ecosystem in together, Passport, checkout, relayer, minting, SDKs, that's the benefit of this ZK EVM, the underlying infrastructure. It's here now. Builders can build. Robbie mentioned in the interview earlier that because they've got that out ready to start building straight away, that's helping with them onboard the customers they're chasing, but as well as an influx of permissionless builders that aren't actually contacting Immutable, just starting to build on the chain. So exciting times.
Yeah, and I did find it. It said we've seen a 10x increase in game developer signups since the Immutable ZK EVM testnet launch. So
that's like if they're normally getting 1 per day, they're getting 10 per day now, or if they're getting 5 per day, they're getting 50 per day now. So
exactly,
that's still a good result.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
We had some new games announced since last time. Battle Derby. Age of Zalmoxis, Kydro, and Infinite Victory. Want to dive into any of those?
Yeah, so Battle Derby. So let's talk about where they've come from. Battle Derby was building on Chromium. I've never even heard of that. It's another blockchain for games. Age of Zalmoxis was building on Elrond, the Metaverse X or something, which I'd heard of, but they've now, they've little. I was on the Discord because I looked at their game and it's absolutely AAA.
Realize though that is the blockchain designed by L. Ron Hubbard, right? And he was the one that basically created Scientology, right? So it's like,
oh really?
Yeah. So
guys is a builder, really, a life builder. Builder of not just blockchain. So that game looks amazing. The graphics is AAA. Anything I've seen up until maybe this Gamescom thing that we'll get to later. Hydro and Infinite Victory were known to Immutable, and announced previously, but not. There wasn't. It went kind of quiet after that. Hydro was more of a Polygon merger over to Immutable, so this has cemented their relationship with Immutable. So they were on Between Two Layers. They were, doing interviews, showing gameplay. They're 100% committed to ZKVM. Now it's out, so that I think they just needed to see that to make that confirmation come through. I think we did talk about it, that there was Beam and the Merit Circle lads sniffing around trying to lure them away. I assume that was not said, but
I know Kydro. They have like a huge following because they had like an online comic book, right, to start with, and had a huge following, and then made the game. So I know a lot of people are really looking forward to it.
I am. It's another top-down ARPG built with their art. So Kydro are owners of the Peggy Chung and Simon, the founders of GadgetBot, that build art for Apex Legends, build art for like the top-tier games.
That's where it looks very familiar from. So I'm a huge Apex fan myself. So
Wagme Games has just updated their graphics. It went from pretty much B-tier graphics, like artwork of their heroes in their game, to be GadgetBot designed artwork, and it's literally a chalk and cheese like spectacle. They're pretty proud of that, and it's a smart decision. So it's a massive win. Their comic book isn't previous. They're still building comic books. It's got a huge viral following, millions of viewers. Their TikTok's huge. They're got amazing artwork, and their game is just a copy of their comic. You can see the artwork looks the same. So it's going to be huge, and they're big believers in blockchain. There's no way they're going to stop doing it on the chain.
Yeah.
So that's about, he thinks that he wants to be able to give back to people, with ownership of their art, what they pay for.
Yeah. I saw a pretty big, kind of partnership for the game Gamescom. That's this week in Cologne, Germany, from Infinite Victory and Immutable, and I think some of the initial, like the release trailer looks awesome. Gave me huge NBA Jam vibes, real big throwback there, and then to learn,
he's on fire.
Yeah, he's on fire from downtown. And I totally I love it, and then also mixing in there like baseball and football type players as well is incredible.
That was a surprise.
There's
5 sports, isn't there?
Yeah,
5 sports: baseball, NFL, basketball, soccer. Is it soccer?
Yeah, I think it is soccer, and then I don't even know. There might be a hockey.
Hockey, that's the fifth one. So they're gonna, and then that makes it like you can collect these characters. It's a collectible game as well. You can and people that are alive and stars of the past and stars of the today, and you can collect the cards, and they have their own little animations in the game. It's action based. I knew about Infinite Victory, and I knew that it was going to be AAA. Like quality, because of the Bitfry games and Ultimate Rivals games that are millions and millions of players on it. Web 2 game. So,
yeah, Bitfry is not small, so
yeah, and this is also an Immutable published game, so it's not. There's no risk of
That's why I saw the close co-branding then, so it makes sense, and I really like it. It was cool what they did with the Immutable bus that they had there in Germany.
We'll get to that in a second. but also, so Battle Derby is a mobile game, and you can play it now. I think if you get this episode, you might be able to still play it. Download it on the App Store, or the iOS app Play Store or the App Store. It's a little Battle Derby game where you level up cars, and you're shooting, collecting power ups on the map, and cute little game. It's very well done. It's a AAA developers, like a AAA game on mobile. So handles really well. You can upgrade your cars. Like at the start, your car's not very, it's harder to get it to go the direction you want, and then you increase the suspension and things like that, and it gets more responsive to you. So there's some. So at first it looked like this little mobile game, but it is a really good game, and it has a big chance of success. Age of Zalmoxis is starting off with the battle royale, and it's going to go to. Oh my god! I've got the washing machine on it, and it's shaking my house. It's like
oh no, it's out of balance.
So
it's going to take
shaking
off.
The microphone. It's shaking the microphone. So if you're hearing me talk like this, it's not. I'm okay. It's not my stutter. It's the actual. It's the washing machine, mate. That all four of those are really like top tier projects and big wins for Immutable.
Yeah, I mean, and from the sounds of it, like you were saying, about 2 a week. We didn't do a recording last week, so we had 4 to cover this week. It lines up.
Yeah, I think you'll find that we'll get like 1 week we get like 8 or 9 games come out, and then 1 week without still. So but averaging out over, we should keep a tally to make sure where we're at on the average, to make sure keep Robbie accountable.
Exactly. If we fall behind, be like, Robbie, we're falling behind.
Get some more announcements out, lads.
Exactly. You're holding out on us. Let's talk a little bit about Pixelmon Parallel building on Base, which is Coinbase's L2.
Yeah. Why I want to talk about this and thought it was relevant is because there was a leaked document that maybe I wasn't supposed to see, but no one's told me I'm not allowed to say anything. But that Pixelmon may have selected Immutable at some stage to build on, but now they're building. They've just had a release on Base. They've said their mini game is going to release on Base. So it was never officially announced that Pixelmon was building on Immutable, and Parallel building on Base as well. They're 2 big games for degens. Like the Parallel's hugely, like you can see. I hope they win. I hope it's a good game. I might even actually start to play it later on. But you can see the people that are commenting right now they've got the double parallel lines in their name, and you go to their profile and they're all about crypto coins and mooning, and then they're telling us how great the game is. So I'm waiting to see real gamers that aren't bought into the degen side of it, the token, the hype around the token and the game, and actual gamers that have played the game and said how great it is before I get in. But interesting that these games have chosen Base. I think it could be because because it's the American flagship kind of brand, Coinbase, and the ability to on-off ramp tokens very easy. So the tools that I'll get with that, I'm pretty sure will be. We talked about it with Robbie. On-off ramps, they're pretty important. So I wonder if that's part of the decision why they're building on an inferior tech stack of Optimism that's hardly got anywhere near the security that ZK has, like Immutable.
No,
what is your take on that?
I agree. I think that Coinbase is paying a lot of these projects to come and do it there because they can, because they're saving so much in overhead from doing it on an L2. So, and they're really pushing their wallet, and.
It's growing
all
in
of
transactions.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, with
risen
Friendtech and this and all there's been a bunch of open mints that have done huge numbers on Base. So
it's the delay. What I don't understand is the tech stack of Optimism versus ZK. The whole industry of devs are in alignment. Even Optimism devs. Even Arbitrum devs say that ZK is the future, but all these games keep on selecting Optimism rollups, OPBNB, Optimism, Oasis. I wonder, who's making that decision? Is this a VHS versus beta moment where the better tech doesn't win in the long run, and it ends up being an optimistic roll up that wins because of just it was easier to get onto it at the start than it is to go through the challenge of building a ZK?
I think that's it. Like, it's a first to market degen based play. It's more of a numbers play than a game, like a gaming play, right? They're gamifying the rollout of everything and playing the numbers there rather than gaming, like actually gaming. And that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out and what the decision if Pixelmon builds their main game there still as well, or if the leaked document that I saw becomes true in the future. We'll keep an eye out for that one. And another thing, Saga. So I listened to that Saga presentation that Bryson was posting.
Right.
They had a lot. They had AVAX there. They had like a lot of different people talking about their chains. But right at the end of it, their last presentation was kind of like they thought they got a checkmate on everyone because because they said they've got 1 million TPS and they're ethlets they're releasing and they're all about games and it was like they think. And then when I broke the stack down, it's another optimistic roll-up. And the way they designed it, architected it, is that the optimistic weakness is that fraud-proof section. The way they've got around that is that for one day, that the fraud proofs are on their own stuff, but not straight away onto Ethereum. And so it's a side chain. But you're doing all the stuff off chain at that time. At that point, it doesn't really add up to being fully on chain, or it's like both.
Yeah,
it's a side chain for 24 hours, and then when the epoch ends and they start the next day's epoch, that epoch gets put onto Ethereum. So it's kind of weird, and to think that that's going to be a solution. It'd be interesting to see. It's got some very good stats because of the way they designed it. But again, there's all these other chains. There's all these other, like Sui and other chains that do a lot of TPS and can do the same thing as what they're claiming. But, it'd be interesting to see how they go. I wish them well. But it was Immutable was invited to that chat where Sorrow had a chat, and he's, again, another guy that just when you see him speak, you can see the intelligence coming out. It's definitely a theme with Immutable employees.
Yeah,
I would never bother. I'm never going to bother applying, mate.
No, and I know what you're talking about when a lot of these chains they start talking transfers per second, and in the environment we're using it in, I don't know if it really translates, right? Because Ethereum's doing 12 transfers per second, right? And then when you go to scale, Loopring, actually Tycho put something out today about whether or not that metric's even viable, and put out a new idea of gas per second, which actually takes into consideration the transaction types, okay? And it actually breaks it down really well, and I really liked the framework of how they explained it, right? And I totally agree with it, because you have these microtransactions like this that sometimes are just interactions with the smart contract that are very simple, and sometimes they're more complex, right? And then it should count for more than a single transaction, right? So so TPS might not make sense in the long run, right? So that's something to think about.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to go fast forward into 2 years and see the Optimism, Oasis, OPBNB, Arbitrum versus the ZK Sync, the Linear / Consensus, the Immutable, the Polygon, the AVAX kind of, which is not even either of those. So yeah, it's interesting to see where the games end up and building and what works out the best. We'll see. I guess stay tuned to our podcast, because we'll be covering it every time there's an update.
Yeah, exactly. I guess while I'm kind of on the Loopring Tycho topic, we can go into a little bit of an announcement from the community there. New marketplace.core is has made some announcements recently that they're gearing up to be launching. So hopefully we're going to have a new marketplace available for Loop Ring. Not exactly sure what they're going to provide differently, but most likely some much needed search tools and functionality within the marketplace there that's a little bit different than Loop Exchange and slightly different than the GameStop marketplace. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. And to those that wanted us to ask GameStop questions.
Oh,
Robbie,
yeah. Yeah, it something we wanted to ask. We sent the questions ahead of time, and really everything that he wanted to talk about has already been answered through the Discord, and we tweeted out and kind of shared the information that they are still working together. There's still stuff in the works, just not too much they can announce or say publicly right now. So we'll respect that, and just looking forward to the future.
Yeah, so those that want to get their stuff onto Passport, off GameStop wallet to Passport, you're just going to have to wait a bit longer, or just create a MetaMask and import it all over to MetaMask is my suggestion. But
yeah, exactly.
Make sure that it's it's IMXified before you do that.
Yeah, exactly. So we basically being able to get your IMX assets and your GameStop NFT stuff and make it so that you can continue using the way you were. Even GameStop's creators, they have even given the go ahead, hey, use MetaMask so that when you go to mint in the future, you still get to mint the same way as if you were using the GameStop wallet. So it's the same type of interface. You're going to be using the same address and all that stuff. You're just going to be using it from an imported account. So, yeah.
Cool. Any more on Loop Ring or GameStop or Tyco?
Not at the moment. I think I'm going to be going on the podcast / space call for gaming on Loop Ring coming up. So look forward to that, and we'll be talking a little bit about IMX stuff as well. So,
cool. I don't want to miss my favorite game that I've played on.
That's why we saved it for the last.
Well, Galaxy Commanders, yeah, like it was. It inspired me to work out how to set up my OBS and get a video out, and I nailed the actual content, how I wanted to say it, but I was a bit stuttery. Got to work on that. But I didn't want to just do it all over again. I thought that was perfect, other than a bit of my jumpiness in my communications. So I got that video out there, and it's got over 50 views on my very first proper video. So I'm happy with that.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. But the game, check that video out if you want to. You can put up with the stutters, and it does get better as time goes on. And just check out the gameplay. It's just like an auto battle, but with decisions. The auto battle is you send ships in a direction, and they flow in a direction, and you choose which ones come out and when they come out, and you can upgrade them, when to upgrade, when to use ultimate abilities. It's a real-time strategy game that involves a bit of auto aspect to it, but it's just such good graphics, good developers, good nice people. I got to talk to them a lot. And excited for that one. They're taking the feedback on board and making some major changes, they said. So, if you haven't seen Galaxy Commanders, follow them on Twitter and get ready for the next playtest.
Yeah, he's not joking about it. Okay, so like I played for one night, and then I came back and I looked at Steam, and it showed that he played 18 hours or something in like 2 days. I was like, okay, he's not messing around. Okay,
with a wife.
Oh, I know. And
that I still got somehow. Thank you, wifey. And cool. So there's one more subject I wanted to talk about is Gamescom. Just that it's a shame it's all in German because I can't see it all. But the introduction day had like about 10 brand new trailers of the next generation of games, and I don't want to go into great detail and speak for too long, but Web3 games need to step it up in terms of what they're offering. The next wave of games make this last year of amazing games that have come out, like Harry Potter and all the ones that have come out this year that have been great. The Baldur's Gate, they are just another level up on physics, on movement, art physics, on the graphics, the explosions, just the landscapes, everything. They're so beautiful. So Web3 needs to step up, and it's not if they can't beat them with graphics, then they have to make great game loops and make the blockchain seamless and make sense and make people want to own their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as these catchy indie games are very viable, okay? The first thing that catches my eye is something like Starfield or something coming out where you're seeing like real-time rendering of these incredible atmospheres, environments, battle scenes, and things of that nature that really capture your attention and command it, right? And that's where I'm looking forward to. Illuvium Overworld is freaking amazing. I've spent hours roaming around in the overworld, and it's just fun to like just hang out and like honestly like I'll waste all of my energy like mining for crystals and stuff, and I won't even go back to the portal yet. I'll just keep messing around in the environment until I eventually either die or whatever, and I'll go back to the portal. I'm like, fine, it's time to go back now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that could criticize the emptiness of it, but what they're not looking at, I don't believe, is once there's like an opportunity to find rare alluvials that you can battle and collect, there's that extra reason to go visit those places that will then mix with the beautiful environment and that that chance, a game of chance, that that rush of like a gambler's rush, the gamer hook.
Yeah, exactly. It's what Pokemon should have been, basically for a long time now, and I'm here for it. I'm ready to do that. Like just be out there, encounter this alluvial in the wild, and be like, Ranthy, I choose you, and like just go to battle.
Do I need to start set up the GamersGalaxie Discord and get the Illuvium Guild started? The GamersGalaxie Illuvium Guild.
I mean, I'm already part of Phantom, so.
Oh, did you get into them? You're ditching your own show, mate. You're ditching your own show.
I mean, they are damn good, and Vanna's been kicking ass at the top of the leaderboards for a while now, taking on the Xborg people, and shout out to the Phantom Illuvium Guild.
PvP coming soon. That's going to ramp it up big time. So can't wait. That's all from me, mate.
Yeah, man.
Anything else you want to say to anyone? Anything?
No. Just excited for what's to come. Can't wait. I did get one of the Rec League boxes off secondary, and I happened to have gotten a legendary box out of it. So pretty stoked about that. So waiting for the end of the month. They have the claim for the Coda holders or whatever, so they're going to do that. And then I believe September 14th is the release of that, so we'll see.
Cool. And you didn't answer me on Twitter. Does that give you in-game benefit or
so in-game each box has 10 items in it, and that's enough to basically create your mech. So the legendary box has 5 legendary items, 3 rare and 2 uncommon. So there's no items in that box are like common rarity.
Wow.
And I got pretty lucky.
Wow. Awesome! I can't wait to see you winning the game, mate.
I know, right?
At the top, mate, with your unfair advantage. And
dude, I saw people that had like 10, 15 boxes, and they only had 1 legendary, and I was like, wow, I got so lucky. So, but yeah, looking forward to that. it's going to be something interesting. I kind of want to see how it breaks down to where Web 2 people are going to be buying versions of my bot or whatever. And they said they're going to be doing 50% royalty share. So however much they pay in game for the bot to use, I get 50% of that price. So we'll see how that works out.
You just said something that you just gave me an idea. You know what someone needs to build? Is there any builders listening? Build this. When you buy a secondary item off the secondary market for a cheap as chips, like you did, because I know you got it under mint price, and then you open it, it becomes a legendary. You should be able to send a message to the person you bought it for and say, "Sucker."
Got it. Actually, I can go to Etherscan. I can send a message to the owner of that wallet on Etherscan. I can be like,
"Do it,
suck it,
do it, mate." You should, but do it, man. Just say, "Hey, just by the way, thanks for the legendary box. You could have probably sold it for an ETH." If you just had some patience, buddy. If you just had some patience, if you weren't a dirty flipper, you had some patience, you'd have an extra.
I did go to the guy's wallet and see what other items that he was selling or he had visible, and he had quite a collection. He didn't have like any apes or anything like that, but he had quite a collection. He had like an invisible friend and some other stuff, but. I don't know if I'm gonna go to Etherscan and send him a message. Sucker.
All right, mate. Well, it's been a pleasure today. Today's been a monumental day for us. Thanks, Robbie, again for spending times with the peasants.
Yeah,
we appreciate that so much.
Absolutely. Great episode. Take care, folks.